All right, so we're going to give everyone just a couple of minutes to filter into the room. I already see we have attendees joining us. Welcome, everybody. Give us just a couple of minutes. We'll let you all join us and then we'll get started.
Oh, hang on a second.
Hey, Jerry, I'm in the Could I have just one of my panelists give me a thumbs up that you're seeing the title slide on your screen? Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, so we still have people filtering in, but I want to make sure that we give plenty of time to our panelists. I'm very excited about today's webinar because we have multiple people joining us from the program Climate Smart Municipalities. And we have Sabine Engel from the University of Minnesota, Mindy Granley from the city of Duluth, Lauren Jensen from the city of Rochester, and Blaine Hill from the city of Morris. So excuse me, just give me 2 minutes while I get all of my different windows situated. Okay, so just a few friendly reminders that our webinar today will last 1 hour. You're all muted during the presentations, but we encourage you to interact via the chat and the question and answer function at the bottom of your screen in the toolbar on the Zoom room. So you can submit questions and you can also see other people's questions and you can upvote them if you find them particularly interesting. Today, we're going to have about half an hour of presentations with a brief introduction about the program from Sabine, and then a short presentation from each of our city representatives talking about what they're doing as part of Climate Smart Municipalities. Then we'll save half an hour at the end for open question and answer with our panel. And this webinar is being recorded and we will post it to MCAP's YouTube channel at a later date. So before we get started, we want to assess who we have as part of our webinar today. So I'm going to pop up a poll on the screen. Please take a couple of minutes to answer that. So we've got some answers rolling in, and I'm seeing quite a few of you are indicating that a common barrier for you is communication and resources and capacity. Those two seem to be the most common, and also policies seems to be a challenge for many of you. I'll give you just 10 more seconds so that you have a complete minute to answer. All right. And so you should also be seeing the results on the screen right now. So as I mentioned, there's a common answer is communication and resources and capacity. And this is really helpful for us because our panel can use this to talk a little bit about how they're facing some of these challenges in their own communities and what they're doing to address it. So without any further ado, I will introduce Sabine. She will be giving a brief introduction about the Climate Smart Municipalities, its history, and what it's doing today. So Sabine, I will stop sharing for the moment so that you can take the screen in whichever way you would like. You were muted, sorry.
Hi there, I'm Sabine Engel. Thank you so much for the opportunity to tell you about Climate Smart Municipalities.
I work at the University of Minnesota at the Institute on the Environment on Renewable Energy Policy and Practice. Right now, I think we are a room of amazing people, 75 or so from across our large state. You represent cities, counties, state government, academic institutions, and private industry. We have people, just having looked at the registration list, all the way from Olmsted County to Dodge County and the Arrowhead region. We have people who guide cities that are large and cities that are small, from Minneapolis to Moorhead and Morris. And we have people representing industry, private industry, including Stantec, Barr, WSB, Cunningham's Consultants. And then we also have people from the universities, such a fabulous group. And altogether, this is in a nutshell already what Climate Smart Municipalities is all about. So in a minute, you're gonna hear from 3 Minnesota cities that are part of the Climate Smart Municipalities effort. Duluth, Rochester, and Morris will share with you how they have been able to use this Germany connection to substantially increase their resiliency work and their climate action work. So my role is to set the table and later to moderate the Q&A. What exactly is Climate Smart Municipalities? How did it get started? Why would one go to Germany to help accelerate climate resiliency and sustainability work in Minnesota? Behind me, you see a banner. It was produced in 2016 by the original 5 Climate Smart Municipalities cities: Duluth, Elk River, Morris, Rochester, and Warren. And it reads, Climate Smart Municipalities, 2 countries, 10 cities, and more than a dozen government, nonprofit, business, and academic partners, and you with an exclamation mark. This is followed by the line, when communities choose to come together, a sustainable future is possible now. The next line spells out our core operating principle. The Climate Smart Municipalities program embraces the principle of partnership to build integrated energy communities. And that is followed by our tagline, together we're smarter. So that's Climate Smart Municipalities for you in a nutshell, just with people at the center. People charged by long-term commitment, coming together across disciplines, across entities, across political parties, across countries, and all of us helping each other succeed in building our joint sustainable future. How it got started. The idea for the Climate Smart Municipalities was born on a bus. And it, again, is a story about people. And this is why I find this so inspiring to work on this. Will Seifert, who then directed EQB, Ken Smith, the head of Evergreen Energy, and I had just visited this community of Saarbeck in rural Germany in North Rhine-Westphalia, NRW, and we were blown away by what we saw. Klimakommune Saarbeck was accomplishing things no one had been expecting it to do. A small town of 7,500 people, which is nothing in German standards, it's tiny, was establishing itself as a leader of a bottom-up climate action cohort at a community scale. They were guided by a mayor who emphasized long-term goals, and the village put out a plan to be carbon neutral by 2030. Think about that, a village deciding to be carbon neutral by 2030, not just electricity, but across the entire range. So this is our integrated energy communities effort. They invited, the city of Saarbeck invited the entire community, from kids in the schools to seniors, to be part of the effort and provide ideas. They collected and organized all of those ideas on flowcharts. They created a subway map to organize all of these ideas. And at the heart of their effort was a local brownfield, a Cold War military ammunition storage area that the mayor proposed to buy for the city, and then to turn into a bioenergy park that would generate renewable electricity and heat and be the centerpiece of this effort. But it's not about technology. It's really about people. So Will Seifert, Ken Smith, and others from Minnesota had seen this. And I remember distinctly that Will Seifert and Ken Smith kept saying, this is amazing. We need a Zabek in Minnesota. And we can do this too. And that's exactly how Climate Smart Municipalities got started. That's how the city of Morris got partnered with the city of Zabek, Duluth with the German city of Siegen, Rochester with Münster, Germany's bicycling capital, Elk River with Germany's city of Iserlohn, Warren with Arnsberg, and White Bear Lake with Lüdenscheid. So today, a good 5 years in, we are much enlarged. So the 10 cities that you see there doesn't reflect where we are at this point anymore. We are much more people and much more cities. We've opened up to involve counties. We do monthly Zoom meetings so that we can share information and help each other move projects forward. The Germany connection, why do we need it? It helps keep us on track. It helps us stay connected to ambitious and planned action. It helps us generate ideas for those integrated rather than siloed energy solutions. And it helps us emphasize energy efficiency. From my perspective, it also helps us do something that we don't normally think about. It helps us accept that cultural differences are normal. It's just part of doing things. They're fun. One gets to see something from a totally different perspective. And sometimes that creates really welcome surprises because you realize you can do something where you thought you couldn't do anything at all. So to get with Climate Smart Municipalities, together we are not just more, we are smarter. And now I'd like to turn things over to the real doers, the places where stuff happens. Each of the 3 CSM cities that you're going to hear from today has an individual approach and an individual emphasis. Mindy Granley of the city of Duluth, she will focus on building capacity as an organization. Lauren Jensen from the city of Rochester, she will focus on managing stakeholders and relationships. And then Blaine Hill from the city of Morris, this amazing partner city for the city of Zabek, he will focus on projects, because one of the lessons that we got from our German partners was captured by Guido Wallraven. Projects, projects, projects. Think projects. When you're not thinking projects, you're not advancing action. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Mindy. Mindy.
Thank you, Sabina. And thanks for hosting today to the Minnesota Climate Adaptation Partnerships. So I started a new job at the city of Duluth just about 2 years ago. And as the first sustainability officer for the city of Duluth, I got to sort of invent how this work happens. And the most effective way for this to happen, as I'm an office of one person, was really to take a whole city approach to the work. So I get things done in my city through partnerships and support, both internally and externally. My work cuts across all departments, relies on relationship building, helps build our capacity as an organization, and supports the needs of our community. A lot of my work gets done through working with short-term grant-funded staff positions, and they're part of building our capacity. I think sustainability provides a lot of great opportunities for short-term projects and some career building programs like AmeriCorps Vista program, the Minnesota Green Corps program, because these short-term projects really help us build relationships for long-term change. One of my staff right now is a temporary part-time position working on sustainable purchasing, and that was through a grant from Healthy Babies, Bright Futures. So not only do we have some well-established programs, but there's new programs I think we could be looking to and taking advantage of when it comes to building capacity. So there's really 4 ways cities can create change. We can lead by showing sustainability in our operations and how we do business and how we take care of our infrastructure and provide our services. We can incentivize climate action through things like funding, how we support different projects in our community. We can also regulate and enact policies. And finally, we can engage and encourage all the sectors across the community, which is really the most fun way to build capacity, is working with community and external players. But before we take steps for climate action, we really needed some internal agreement. And to do this, we created a city sustainability advisory team. And that was formed with people from across all different departments, from our planning and economic development, public works and utilities, our property, parks and libraries department, our police, fire, life safety and emergency crews, our human rights office, our workforce development, our administration, our communications, just getting folks from all of these different sort of silos across the city to get together to talk about climate action, how it affects all of our work, and then get to some agreement on how we should move forward together. So to be effective in our climate action response, we're going to need some flow between these silos. So we started that CSAT team and just last night presented our first climate action work plan for the city of Duluth to the city council, which could only have been done with the buy-in from across departments and agreement on really what are the actions and where do we need to go. So that was really vital. I would say another asset that you would have in your city for change is just to take advantage of the leadership of residents and communities, community organizations across the city. So I've benefited from really strong community support. We have also an energy plan commission that helps guide energy decisions at the city, and inspired by Guido Walroven and Zarbek stories, we're really trying to use that energy plan commission as a place for community conversation on energy, but also to encourage projects and just getting some things done and demonstrating some things and getting policies in place. But community organizations and residents were really a powerful force for climate action in Duluth. Community members self-organized to build the Duluth Citizens Climate Action Plan, which we use to inform the city's climate action work plan, which is our strategies for sort of the next 1 to 5 years. How do we sort of get a platform for launching phase 2 decarbonization across our community? Community members also led the approach to our city council to get them to declare climate an emergency, which added urgency to our response and for our climate action work plan too. So it's a great place to go to get some external partnerships for your city as well. I think Lauren, in the Rochester example, we'll talk about how to reach out beyond sort of the known community and get the voices of marginalized people and more vulnerable people in the community, which is a next step for Duluth. So I look forward to hearing more from her. One of the things when I started this job was really to start looking for projects and things that we could work on to build examples and demonstration projects, but also just to build relationships within departments. So we just started applying for funding and grants and small grants for alternative landscaping equipment to electrify, to big projects like infrastructure projects, solar feasibility project, water plant resiliency projects. And the process of going through these projects together really helps to build capacity and also understanding across departments about how climate action really is a part of our work that we're doing already. And it's not something new or different. It's about taking a climate lens to the work that you're already doing for your unit. So that's just a few tips about how we got started, and I look forward to learning more from my colleagues here and answering questions from the audience as well. So thanks.
Fabulous, Mindy. Thank you so much. So we're going to move all across the state to the southern portion of the state to Lauren. Lauren, you're going to talk about you're going to focus on managing stakeholders and relationships. We already heard that keyword, relationships. So Lauren, go ahead.
Excuse me, just a minute before we transfer to Lauren. Mindy, you had a question in the chat that was kind of a straightforward logistics question. Just wanted to alert you to that. Hopefully you can, how many staff persons are on your team?
Well, I'm a one person for full-time staff, but I have 3 interns right now, AmeriCorps Vista working on energy and equity, a Minnesota Green Corps member who's working on green infrastructure planning, and then a sustainable purchasing intern. So I have 3 really great short-term grant-funded staff right now.
Excellent, thank you. And excuse the interruption, Lauren, please take it away.
Not a problem at all, thank you. So yeah, kind of building off Sabina's introduction and Mindy's kind of approach to how we deal with internal capacity, I really am focusing on our external capacity and what does it look like to bring the community into this. And really for Rochester, it's just been working to build a culture of sustainability. both internally and externally, but helping people understand that sustainability isn't just about the environment. A complete picture of it looks at the environment, the economy, and social equity. Particularly that social equity component is what we've really been putting a lot of our time and effort into in working with our community and building that external capacity. So we need all three of those pieces. And when you do have all those components, sustainability really ends up encompassing everything that we do as a local entity and as a community. And I think this was something that we really learned from our Climate Smart participation in this program, was that climate change isn't a political issue, it's a people issue. Going and visiting Germany, our German partners don't associate climate change to any one particular political party or issue or entity. They all view it as something that's real and something that's affecting us right now. And so just taking that and how do we build this approach out to our broader community, and find those pinpoints that touch on everyone's different values or ways they might connect to or see how climate change can affect them. So this is all about partnerships. That's what Climate Smart Municipalities is the partnerships that we've created there and how we bring that work back to our community and dive into our community partnerships, our state partnerships, federal, global, and how we continue to build those out. So it really serves all of us to be connected with our community's institutional partners, the organizations, the nonprofits, the schools, the volunteer groups, really for us at Rochester to know what each of them is working on and how we as a city can either support or influence that work. Understanding that there are things that as a city we're equipped to lead and it makes sense, but there are other things that our community organizations and groups are already doing a great job at and maybe have better processes or tools in place. And it's something that we can just support or influence the work that they're doing. A lot of the barriers that were brought up in the beginning of this conversation in this webinar on climate action really kind of transcend into our community engagement and either enable or inhibit it. So thinking about how we engage with our community, especially our underserved populations, really changes the way that we as a local government have gone about our community engagement. So to really build our community members' empowerment and want them to want to participate, that takes trust, and building trust takes time. So really what we were inspired to do and learn from with Starbucks approach that Sabine mentioned is this kind of bottom up. How do we bring in our community members from the beginning of a project before an idea or a program has even formed so that they can be a part of that development process from the beginning to the end? And in order to do that, how can we remove the barriers that might prohibit some of those community partners, particularly the voices we don't often hear from participating in our processes? So for us, this kind of started as a co-design approach, and now it's just become a larger commitment as a city entity to how we have a more robust community engagement process. So where are we holding our meetings? What time of day are we holding them? Do people have transportation to and from those meetings? Can they afford the transportation? If it's after working or school hours, as most kind of public input meetings tend to be, do they have childcare? Can they afford childcare so that they can participate in this process? So just thinking about, as we're building those relationships, how we're making it as easy as possible for people to come in and participate. It also just opens up a lot more of opportunity for innovation. So when we embarked on our own planning process for our sustainability and resiliency community plan, that whole process started with looking at our community and looking at who are the voices that have the most influence, and who are the voices that don't have the most influence but are the most impacted by what we're doing, and how do we bring those together to create a plan for our community that reflects everyone in our community. So that's kind of where this has come out of and built out of, is bringing in those community members, having them review existing plans, having them provide the input on what their organizations or their peers or their communities are doing in the Rochester as a community as a whole, and weighing in on, where can we fill in the gaps? What would they like to see for Rochester's future? What would really allow us to thrive? Just kind of having those open-ended conversations with community members so that they can share their thoughts and input in a safe space That's really just us listening to them and pulling out the needs that we're hearing and using those in this process. The policies that we pass as a city affect our entire community. So we need that robust stakeholder management, and we need to create that buy-in from our communities to help create these policies and programs that then reflect our community. So just to kind of quickly wrap that up, I think it's important not only to involve the community members from the start, but to keep those communication lines open so that there's always updates on what's happening, who's doing what, how do the goals we've set as a city align with the other organizations and community groups' objectives that they've set for themselves. And that continual feedback loop of here's the information you provided to us, this is exactly what we did with it. Does this reflect what you feel like you shared? And if not, how can we change that? Just continue to develop our processes and policies from there.
Thank you so much, Lauren. This was really fabulous because it picked up on a number of comments that Mindy gave us about working across different departments and then engaging people beyond the city. And what I really loved about your comments was this one line: climate change is a people issue. And once we think about it in that way, we approach things a little differently. So it's about trust building, it's about relationship building, it's about this continuous, as you call it, feedback loop. So you mentioned projects, and I think the person who is perfect to focus on projects and show what a city can do through the power of projects is Blaine Hill. Blaine, why don't you take it from here?
So thank you very much. There's two things I want to start with. One is being partnered with Zarbek, we got to see the future. And that's one of the things I like to say all the time. We got to see the future. I'll give you one example of that, and I'll just pose a question to you. The electrification of the transportation system. Do you think it's coming? And I can answer that question by the fact that I watched the Super Bowl. If anybody watched the Super Bowl and doesn't understand that the electrification of transportation is coming, you probably missed all the commercials for electric vehicles that were being run by all the car companies that are there. What we did in Morris is we formed a group that's called the Morris Model, and it's made up of a lot of different people: the university, the city, the county, the school district, just people in the community, people that have a hand in some of the things that we work with, our power company, Otter Tail Power Company, and of course, all the organizations that help support these kind of activities. And by doing that, by establishing that group, we're able to jump into the process of starting these projects that Germany talked about. And one of the things that we realized was we needed an overall plan and goal. And we got everybody together thanks to Sabine. And we met and we passed the sustainability strategic plan with three main goals. One is to produce 80% of the energy that we use in this county in the county. Just think about that, to produce it here. Reduce energy consumption by 30% by 2030. The other one was by 2030. And no landfilling of waste generated in the county by 2025. And we're right on schedule to try to meet that through the work that we learned through working with Germany and getting our county on board. So what did we do? What kinds of things did we do? If you look behind me, that's our liquor store. Our slogan is, our beer is cooled by the sun. This is one of the projects that we did. The city jumped in and just started looking at all the different areas that we could deal with energy and how we use it. And we got that from the German people that we worked with. So we changed out all the city-owned street lights in the downtown area. We changed out all of our lighting in our buildings. Then we influenced our power company, who owns all the other street lights in our community, to change out all the street lights in our community. So every light in our community is LED, which saved a tremendous amount of energy. We put in a level 2 charging station on our grocery store. So if you come to Morris and you stop into the grocery store that has a coffee shop, you can plug in your car. And then we continued on with that process. We leased the Chevy Volt vehicle hybrid so that we're actually driving an electric hybrid vehicle. We put a level 2 charging station on the back of City Hall. So if you come to visit us in Morris, you're going to be able to charge right behind City Hall. We updated our library had in the 90s a ground source heat pump system, a big one. And so we went in, we retrofitted that and made sure that everything was working well with that library system. And then we decided that we needed to do solar. And so one of the first things we did is we enacted a new ordinance that established the rules for being able to put up solar in our community. If you want to put it up and you want to put it on your roof, it costs you $50 for a permit. You're able to do it. If you want to put it in your backyard, we have to stop and take a look at it because the neighbors might be excited about it. And so we have a process in place for dealing with that. And then we started looking at putting solar on our own buildings. And so we wound up working with our power company, and we contracted for 3 solar arrays on buildings. And then we determined that they had some excess capacity. And so we added a 4th building. So we put up 23.1 kW of solar on City Hall, 30.8 kW of solar on our community center, 36 kW of solar on our library, and 23.1 kW of solar on our liquor store. So we have all these solar arrays and things now that are up and running. And then we just continued on with other things to include looking at doing solar projects at our water, wastewater. We have a Green Core Service member. We became a level 4 Green Step City. We have a sustainability project coordinator grant with the LCCMR. We have a search grant to do a energy pathway like Zarbeck has, so that we can bring people here and show them all these things that we have here. And then we've been working with Germany. And so we have a German master's degree student that's going to be coming in April to analyze our water treatment plant that we have. And these are all things that we wouldn't have ever done if we wouldn't have been matched up with Zarbeck, Germany, and saw the future and all the kinds of things that we could wind up doing. So I'll leave it there.
Blaine, what a fabulous way of presenting this. It really is amazing to go someplace and then to see a whole different world, and then to feel empowered to do things at home and translate it in ways that fit. So
I'll flip a couple more pictures up of our solar for my Zoom backgrounds.
And you know, Blaine, I can tell you that every time Guido Weilhaber from the city of Zarbeck comes to Minnesota, he says, "Oh my God, I'm curious to find out what they are doing now." First, they were not that quick in getting started, but now they are so fast. I can't keep track, and they are going to.
So that's our library.
Faster than we. Congratulations! This is amazing. So it's. I think in this a group of cities, Morris also is one of the places that surprises people, that there is so much change and so much in action coming out of a small city that was not part of the group that anybody pointed to 5 years ago when we were thinking about sustainability and climate action. And I'm super excited about this. So let's move into the conversation, because you know all of you 3 have presented different approaches. People in the room are eager to learn about how can they work with this. So looking at your goal of promoting climate smart planning in your city, what are some tips for people to get started and to be most effective? So how does one get started in order to be most effective? Who wants to start? Mindy, you want to start with that one?
Sure. I think one of the lessons that the staff learned from Climate Smart before I even joined the city was that you have to put some resources to it. And so they had established an energy fund to help revolve and help fund projects to save energy. things like street lighting, LED retrofits, like Blaine mentioned, and just working on buildings, building by building, to save that energy and start to reduce carbon emissions in your community. And I think the city staff that were part of CSM learned a lot of those tricks of the trade from their German partners to say, hey, this is just how you should do things, and adopted new ways to do things that saved a lot of energy. So yeah, putting a few resources to get some projects started is a great way to get buy-in. Once those things started to pay off, everyone was like, oh, that's a really great idea. Now we should move to this building. So giving resources is a really important part of getting started.
Okay, so we are hearing from you, a certain size city, the resources are an important part. What does a smaller city have as a tip, Blaine?
Well,
there are
we're
plenty of
lucky,
cities like Morris all over the
right?
place.
And we're lucky that we have a university here. So one of the things that I will tell you is I have a city council made up of a mayor and 4 council members, and they are 100% behind this. And one of the reasons for that is because young people came and talked to them, college students, people from the high school. And when they get stuff from a city manager, yeah, I talk to them all the time and they hear me all the time. But when they get, and a lot of councils, especially in small cities, like having people come and visit them. But when students come and start talking to them about different things, we had a college president of his class wrote a grant to get 2 brand new fully electric school buses for our school district. A college student wrote the grant, and so there's a lot of respect that goes back and forth. But that's a big one for me, is to have people like that can come in and be information providers.
I love that you're pointing to the role of institutions of higher education as being a success factor, because that's also part of the secret behind the success of ZABEC. When you ask the people in ZABEC what helped them advance at the speed and in the comprehensive fashion that they're advancing, they always point to Applied University of Münster. That is key, because it is both the people power and also the innovation, because they are working on these topics, and putting those two together with a need for capacity, it's a win-win situation for everybody. I'm going to toss this question also to Lauren. So from a climate smart planning perspective, some tips to get started to be most effective.
Yeah, I think just tying it back to kind of what I touched on with stakeholders, it really took getting our city leadership on the same page in terms of our city council and our mayor, kind of internally as an organization, how are we approaching as a municipality sustainability in our day-to-day operations, and then how do we bring in the community to this? So really building that complete picture of all of those stakeholders that need to be involved, and breaking it down even further with our community. Kind of, I touched on that, this stakeholder analysis of our community, who's involved in what, who represents what, who are all the different organizations we need to have at the table, who are the different, sub-community groups or populations that should be represented, who has a lot of influence in these decision-making processes, and who is the most impacted. And breaking that down so that you can invite those people in to be a part of this climate smart planning process. And again, like Mindy said, just having some resources available to kind of continue that work and kind of get people excited about it, and knowing that it's one thing to plan and do and say you're doing it. The next step is actually doing the work. So just framing all of that up, I think, when you're starting this process, not only internally, but externally for the community.
Thank you, Lauren. So this gives a picture of all of the things that you consider really effective in getting going, and obviously all of you are doing a mixture of those things. I want to pick up on a question that probably a lot of people are having in their minds, which is, we are not partnered with a city in Germany or anybody else, anywhere else abroad. Why is that important, or is it not that important? So how do you think the program benefits from thinking in an international context or meeting with international partners? Who wants to go there first? I mean, maybe we're going to start with Blaine, because he said, you know, we go there and we see the future. Blaine, you know.
Well, I think the big thing is the sharing of information that we get from them, you know, and then one of our charges is to take that information, figure out what we're going to do with it, and then share it to other cities. So you have a Zarbak, Germany, but now you have a Morris, Minnesota. And if you look at the building behind me, it has a white roof. And anybody that's been part of Climate Smart Municipalities will know what that means. But it has a white roof because of what we learned in what we're doing. But when we start looking at, you know, what's happening with energy, what's happening, you know, with fossil fuels and stuff like that from a perspective of an international view, and then, I mean, you don't have to even think about what's going on right now in Europe, because that's one of the reasons why Zarbak wanted to create their own environment where they had their own energy, so they didn't have to worry about the world. But even the little things, you know, putting up solar, putting in informational things, how people gather together to meet and to trade information back together. Those are all things that we learned by the partnership, and not to mention making friends with people in another part of the world, which we'll have forever, which is very special. But like I said, we wouldn't be doing any of this stuff if we wouldn't have seen it first. And when I go in the grocery store and people walk up to me and go, hey, how much did that solar cost you to put on the roof? And how would a person want to do that if they go about doing that and stuff? That conversation wouldn't have happened 5 years ago, you know, but now it's happening, not because we said it should happen, but because we did it. We demonstrated that it can be done.
We demonstrated that it could be done. I know that there is an audience question that has to that relates to obstacles to progress. So what are you experiencing more frequently, active opposition or apathy? And whichever of these obstacles that you focus that we face more frequently, how have you been able to overcome it? So is it opposition or apathy? Who wants to go there? Maybe we're gonna go to Lauren on this one.
I was gonna say, I mean, it really depends. I think it's a mix of both, and it depends on the topic you're approaching, and the stakeholders that are involved. I think the more stakeholders that are involved, obviously, the more probably opposition that you're facing, especially when it comes to, you know, passing new policies or outlining new programs for a city. That's changing the way a lot of people work. So, you know, again, just making sure we're bringing those voices in from the start to make sure that we're kind of tackling those things at the beginning, to avoid or prevent some of that opposition. I do think we're in a really special place in time right now, though, where there is a lot of apathy for this work because people are starting to get it. You know, a bunch of Minnesota cities just kind of jointly declared a climate emergency. People really valued that and the push that it's making towards the state and federal government, community members, youth, as Blaine mentioned. There is a lot of advocacy for this type of work and wanting cities to step up and go to the next level and do better. So I think that apathy helps the opposition, and we are starting to see more of that, I think, as people start to realize the broad effect that climate change is having on our communities, especially what we've seen in the last year or two.
I'd like to jump in on that too, because I think if maybe there was a lot more apathy maybe 10 years ago, but now we're seeing the impacts of climate change locally. We're seeing that it's costing money and how we do our operations, the climate, you know, induced weather events, like it is costing cities real money to deal with those. So I think the apathy has gone away and people are like, let's get to solutions. I think one of the first things that I did when I started at the city was to do an internal survey, to ask people, what motivates you to think about sustainability in your job? And I thought for sure it would be to save money. But that was like fourth reason down on the list, people were like, I think it's the right thing to do. I think it helps the environment. I think it helps people. And then I think it helps save money. And so it was really interesting. And the only fears that were really strongly identified was, I don't know if I'll have enough time to do this work or enough money to do this work, but I want to do this work. And so that internal survey really helped me, because I thought I was going to have to start early with education, why this is important. I was like, nope, I don't have to start there. I just have to start helping people get capacity, get some resources, get some expertise, and just get going. So that was really helpful to me.
So if I may pick up on that, I think, what we're hearing here is that sometimes we are too cautious as we are thinking about things that we can do, because we are not talking consistently to younger people. I mean, the point that Blaine made, in order to get things going, to build momentum, there is a group of allies that is out there that are just waiting to be tapped. We don't have to convince them of a different way. They already see the future in ways that we of a certain generation just find harder to see. Blaine, you want to add to that?
Well, I would say, that we don't use the word climate. We don't use the word emergency. We don't have to. And that's one of the things that we looked at is we all kind of know, but if you throw that out first, then people put up walls, and it immediately draws them away from the discussion you're going to have. One of the fortunate things we were able to do is, as I said before, we got to see the future. We got to hear what was going to happen to coal-fired power plants a long time ago. Sabina knows this. We got to hear that was going to happen. And so then when we're saying it, people are like, these people are crazy. That's never going to happen. Fast forward today, well, they actually did probably hear something that was important to listen to. And so then as we're doing things, we're doing them because of this. It's coming. That's why I mentioned electric vehicles. We mentioned electric vehicles a long time ago, and people said, that's never going to happen. You'll never see electric pickup truck in farm country. And yet Ford's got massive orders for F-150 electric pickup trucks, and it's happening. And so I think you just focus on the things that you're seeing happening that can be done, like putting solar on buildings, changing out things, and you just work on them, because there's a lot more people now that are going, okay, well, that makes sense. And in a lot of cases, we're actually saving money in the long run, but that's not the focus.
So that's not the focus. We need to focus on the goal, and there is support there. I'm also thinking about all of the money that is available there, because it has been realized that we need to invest in this transition towards a clean economy. And there's actually some benefit that Minnesota has, because we do not have fossil fuel resources, so we don't need to displace a segment of the economy. I want to toss another question out to you, which would interest a lot of people. So when you're thinking about Minnesota, what changes have you noticed in Minnesota and in your city as a result of this program and of this consistent, comprehensive, holistic way of looking at things? Who wants to take that first? Mindy?
You probably could see the wheels turning in my mind. I think the acceptance from the public that climate change is here and we need to do something about it, but no matter what we do, we're still going to have to adapt. I think that reality has hit home with the community and residents of Duluth. And I think it hits home in our department directors as they make their budgets and respond to problems that they're seeing. And so I think the good thing I've noticed is that maybe we're moving towards where Germany is, where climate change is just, well, we know we have to deal with it, and it's not such a political issue. It's just more of a, okay, this is the new normal. We have to adjust. And so maybe as a society, as a city, as a state, we're moving towards that acceptance of, okay, we're going to have to deal with it. We should still mitigate, but we're going to have to adapt. So I see that happening slowly, I think.
Lauren also had her mic on because she wanted to pick on that question. So changes in Minnesota that you've seen as a result?
Yeah, I think just having these connections that we've made with these cities across the state, so in Minnesota as a whole, and then both on the, smaller level of our own individual cities, I think we've all just are thinking bolder, and Blaine has kind of touched on this, is we went to Germany and we saw these things and we were like, wow, that's amazing. And back home, people were like, that's never going to happen. And we we're like, well, it can happen, and we're moving that way. So just this bigger, bolder thought process of these grand things that we can achieve, because we've seen them achieved elsewhere in communities of smaller size, varying approaches, different resource levels. We saw a district energy system in Munster when we visited there, that was made out of old coal plants. And now in Rochester, and through intern partnerships with Germany, we're on our own process of creating a district energy system for our downtown building. So I think it's just challenged everyone to think broader, and then it's made those connections for us across the state, knowing that we have cities pretty much in every corner that are kind of thinking the same way or have experienced these same examples or processes.
Thank you. Blaine, you want to add to
And
that?
I would just, for me as a city manager, two things. One, a massive change in the leadership perception of this. So it starts with the city council, because like I said, I'm in a small rural community, and to have a city council that is 100% behind this, to the point where they're telling me, why don't we have solar on a building? But then we took that and we, and Dr. Engel knows this, now we got in with the school board. And pretty soon a couple school board members got to see this. And now the school is looking at doing all these things. So their leadership is changing in their perspective. The county commissioners, sometimes in rural counties, are pretty set in their way, but they get into an organic grant program where we're actually, our county does waste. So they're doing organic waste recycling with the goal, 40% of our waste is organic. And if we can get it out of the garbage system getting buried, that's the answer. So now they're working on that. And then the other thing is the power company. The power company transitioned from the old style power company through all these things that we got to see, including bringing some very key speakers in front of them to show them what they thought was going to happen. They've transitioned to the point where now we're going to have a fast charging station put in our parking lot downtown by the power company, not by us, because they know that they have to start doing that for the future of electric vehicles.
Thank you for those comments. I want to bring things back to Minnesota again, because here we are, we're talking about Climate Smart Municipalities as a program. But as you saw in the banner, we're 12 cities right now that are partnered, 6 in Minnesota, 6 in Germany that are directly partnered with each other. Listening to what you said, you are not focused you're not focused on the relationship with Germany. It's a source of inspiration. It's a source of ambition. But how do you keep things going? How has this Germany experience, this, as Blaine calls it, seeing the future that's possible, how has that changed how you interact with each other and with other cities? Mindy, you want to start? And
Sure.
Maybe this is an invitation for the cities and the other partners to connect with you, and because we don't want to create the impression that this program is a closed program. This is just a leadership program where we benefit from everybody putting their expertise on the table for everybody else to benefit from that.
I agree. It's inspiring to be part of it, but you don't have to be part of it to grab the lessons from it. Our mayor has not been on the trip to Germany to see these things in person, but when we got back, we did a debrief and showed pictures and told stories and showed where we got the inspiration from the trip. We also, last week, held a regional climate resilience conference that brought in over 100 people from different counties, cities, and tribes, staff working at these local governments and community leaders. And just had them talking about climate change and climate resilience. And I think the Climate Smart, makes me think, well, how do we share these lessons? And so just try to bring those wherever I can.
Great, thank you. Blaine, you want to take us?
Well, and let me just say this, because I was there when Rochester and Duluth came on board, and because we were the first city that was part of this. But I remember watching the Rochester people when they went to Germany and came back, and the transformation that's changed in both Rochester and Duluth is incredible. The things you're doing are just absolutely fantastic. And that's part of this whole thing. And so then we learned I learned about a white roof in Duluth that we put on our building in Morris here. But yeah, I mean, one of the 4 pillars of our sustainability plan is to educate others. So it is our goal to, anytime somebody calls me and says, hey, can you jump in and talk about this? It's like, absolutely. That's one of our things that we want to do. And that's a big part of it. And we have students that are starting to filter out into other places now. And so they're bringing that word out to other people. But we continue, the sad part about the pandemic is that we were forced to do Zoom meetings and couldn't be in person. But the great part about the pandemic is we've been doing Zoom meetings with our partners in Germany. It's a little bit different time, but so we get a chance to sit and have conversations with our partners and find out what they're doing. And then, as I said, we have a student coming from the University of Applied Sciences in Munster to Morris to look at our water treatment plant. So we'll continue doing that as long as we can.
So it's really inspiring to hear all of you share how this relationship, it's a relationship, it's about people, how these things have energized you and helped you do things that you didn't think you were about to do when you first joined the program. You're also working with other cities and helping other cities in Minnesota do similar things and benefit from you. And I think, for me, as somebody who didn't grow up in Minnesota, it goes to what I love about Minnesota. I call it the state with a collaborative gene. Our German partners love this. They love about Minnesota that Minnesotans are forward-leaning, that you don't need a complete pathway that is spelled out for you to the nth degree. You just we start doing things here. And that is something that the Germans take away from here. And I want to encourage, we're wrapping things up now, I want to encourage everybody who is in this Zoom meeting to connect with the 3 cities because they have interns coming from Germany. And if you or your organization are interested in meeting with those 7 interns from Applied University of Munster in summer and early fall, please just send us a line. You know our website, and just get in touch with us because we really want to share what we have learned and how we are continuing to learn. And with that, I'm going to turn things, I'm going to thank our panelists. You're such fabulous people, Lauren and Mindy and Blaine. It's such a pleasure to work with you. And the University of Minnesota is super, super proud to provide a platform for us, for you to just run with it and amaze everybody. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Susie and Heidi.
Thank you so much, Sabina, and thank you to all of our panelists. It's honestly very inspiring to hear about the work that you're all doing. And I love to hear about how these international connections are translating to local change. I think that that's something that we can all be inspired by. So for those of you who tuned in today, thank you for joining us. I'm just going to drop a link in the chat so that you can give us some feedback. Let us know what you thought about today's webinar. And maybe if you have any ideas, you can suggest more webinars that we can include in the future. So here is our link. So thank you once again for joining us. We are ending right at the hour. One more virtual round of applause for our panelists and a thank you for giving us your time today.